Hi, everyone. It's Alex Savage at KTVU, Fox 2 News in the San Francisco Bay Area. And today we want to talk about some of the latest news surrounding the coronavirus outbreak and the work that is happening to create a vaccine. And to do that, I want to bring in Dr. Vanila Singh, clinical professor at Stanford School of Medicine and the former chief medical officer with the Department of Health and Human Services. Dr. Singh, always good to see you.
Great to be here. Thank you, Alex.
You are here joining us today on what feels like a really big day in this country. We have the drug maker Moderna entering phase 3 trials for its potential coronavirus vaccine today. So this means they're looking for 30,000 participants to take part in this study to figure out if this vaccine that they've created is safe and effective. In your mind, big picture, how big a milestone is this, you think?
Well, this is huge. This definitely is a showcase of the rapid pace that we have come to in terms of advancing our scientific abilities to get at the COVID vaccine as really fast as possible. It's actually record breaking, and it is an exciting day because it means that phase 1, 2 have definitely proven out enough to get the ability to move to phase 3 this early. And the hope is that maybe late fall we'll be able to have some good idea that this is successfd. And if so, then we can see the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of having the vaccine present for people.
So I'd heard that people were already lining up at some of the locations that were set up across the country for potential participants in this trial to be a part of it. It's so obviously there's a lot of interest, people who want to kind of be a part of the solution here. From what you know, what is this phase 3 trial going to look like, and who can participate?
So these are great questions. 30,000 people is what they're looking at 87 different sites across the United States. And they're looking for healthy people, clearly, anyone age 18 or older, male and non-pregnant females, those who don't have temperature, have good vital signs. They have criteria for all those different temperature, blood pressure checks. And in general, they want to make sure there's no confounding issues, no reason that the person may not do well. But if all of that is satisfied, then those folks likely get to enroll. And they will either enroll in the group that gets the actual vaccine or the placebo group that will likely get a saltwater placebo. Neither the patient nor the doctor or folks in charge of the clinical trials will know who's getting what. So it will be a double-blind trial going on at this phase 3.
That's really important, and it is really important to emphasize, because a lot of people might think, well, this is a potential coronavirus vaccine, so I've been feeling symptoms and I'm feeling sick or something like that, and so I should be taking part in this study to figure out if it works. Absolutely not. They don't want people who have symptoms, who are feeling ill, to be a part of this study, because that would really throw things off.
That's right. And they will do those temperature checks. They're also, I believe, asking people to keep a diary and have daily temperature checks, and certainly report if anything changes, because again, those things matter. They can even matter in terms of understanding how well the vaccine is doing, how people are responding to that vaccine. Some people have the mild side effects, we know, of muscle aches, fevers, headaches. And so all of that is important information in terms of the safety, the efficacy, and how well tolerated the vaccine will be.
Okay, and so then what will be the next step? So someone goes in, they get one of these shots that, again, is either the vaccine or it's the placebo, and then at some point in the near future, they go back and they check in and report back. And how is the drug maker going to determine the effectiveness of this vaccine? And is there a certain sort of rate of efficacy that they're looking at trying to meet?
Yeah, this is a really important question about what is the milestone in terms of if the result is achieved. So they're going to be looking at the immune response. Ultimately, the vaccine's purpose, as we all know, both from our childhood and adult vaccines, is to boost the immune system so that the immune system can fight off a potential threat of the virus, and in a preventive way, so prevent a person from getting the virus, or secondarily as a goal would be to prevent serious symptoms. And ultimately, they will also be looking at if it can totally prevent death from it. So the primary goal, of course, is preventive, something that we always know is important, far more important. And then, of course, a secondary goal is to see if it can lessen the severity of symptoms. They will do that by measuring the immune response in that person. Do they have the antibody levels, and do those antibodies actually confer immunity? And if they do, how long that immunity will last? Those are the really important questions.
Yeah, and some of the questions that have not, not been entirely settled here because we are obviously dealing with a novel virus. Moderna's vaccine, there's I guess a little bit of controversy because they're using new technology to fight the virus here. They're using as mRNA molecules to provoke the immune response. And from what I was reading, this technology has never been used before to make a successful vaccine. Do you have any concerns surrounding this particular technology being used?
Well, we definitely want to make sure that the efficacy and the safety are being watched carefully. So it's important to see that not only is this new technology safe, but more important, is it effective? mRNA is our genetic code. It's the messenger RNA, and it goes as this molecule into the cells and gives it instructions on how to create the protein that mimics the coronavirus spike protein and have the correct antibody response that allows for an effective immune response, how to fight it off. What's going to be interesting is that in years past, the mRNA molecule has been unstable. So the idea that it can be stable enough to get into the cells and cause this has been what the scientific discussions have been about. But we've really made some amazing strides in gene technology, and I'm very hopeful. I'm certainly not surprised, being in the past in the molecular and cell biology field myself. I think this will be something that holds great promise, not only for COVID, but definitely other disease entities, cancer, infectious disease, et cetera. So it's huge step forward. And, they always say necessity is the mother of invention. We know that we've had this, but this gives us the impetus to actually drive it. So I'm optimistic, but as usual, cautious as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. We all have to sort of tread lightly into these, uncharted waters, so to speak. Looking a little bit further down the road, and we'll sort of keep our fingers crossed that this vaccine, other vaccines, are found to be safe and effective at treating the disease and preventing the disease. What are going to be some of the biggest challenges in terms of distributing this vaccine in a broad way here in this country?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. So first of all, I believe HHS and their unit of BARDA are the ones who are driving this, with certainly the public-private partnership, the funding that's coming out from NIH, and to really expedite this at the Operation Warp Speed, which is really the entire project that's moving forward the vaccine development. And Moderna, along with Pfizer, which is working with BioNTech, and Johnson & Johnson, they're all working on the vaccine, but in parallel, my understanding is the big question about manufacturing the doses, having the numbers that are going to be necessary US-wise, but also globally, to ensure that the right people can get it, so that we can get what is termed as herd immunity, where not only do you protect the person, but you immediately start to decrease the viral transmission rates. All work in our favor, certainly. So the manufacturing capability is something that is being discussed. I understand that Moderna has stated that, or pledged that they can do 500 million doses, but even maybe up to 1 billion doses, and other folks are also making those kinds of plans in parallel. And then the third thing would be disseminating that. So once you have the vaccine, it's manufactured, put into the dose files, and then how does it get out and who does it get out to is also very important points to ensure that we have enough, and then we get it first to the critical people, frontline workers, essential workers, and of course the most vulnerable patients are elderly and those with medical conditions, to ensure that they have the best chance to stave off a serious or worse outcome.
Right. So we're going to obviously have to have some, especially if there are limitations in terms of production, we're going to have criteria, obviously, about who is going to get priority to get those shots first. And you pointed out some of the some of the people who are going to need to get the vaccine first once it's approved. What about the cost? I mean, what needs to be done to make sure that you keep the cost of the vaccine at a reasonable level so that everyone who needs it has access?
Well, look, when you think about the funding that is going into this, the massive amount of financial resources, we heard over the weekend that Moderna's got a second, if you will, funding amount from the government at HHS, 472 million, putting it just under $1 billion of funding. This is a company that when they initially started had only had $2 million in investment. And even though the CEO and other scientists had great belief in the ability of this gene technology, ultimately you need the funding to be able to get the best scientists to advance this and put it into actual play. So right now we have all this funding, which should help not only with hiring, but hopefully it's also going to allow for the rapid output for the companies to be able to pledge the number of vaccine doses. And my sense of it, given the huge impact this is having on our economy, on our livelihood, mental health, the schools, etc., that I think that it would be prudent, certainly, for our state and federal governments to ensure that people who need it get it, and that cost is not a barrier.
Yeah, you certainly hope that would not stand in the way of someone who really desperately needs that shot to be able to get it. But, well, again, I mean, these phase 3 trials for Moderna's vaccine getting underway today, and it seems like there are certainly a lot of people around the country who are interested in taking part in this study. And you believe by fall we probably will have some answers about whether this vaccine works.
Yeah, well, what was really interesting is Dr. Fauci in an interview also mentioned that he wouldn't be surprised that there might be some early results that are shared because of the huge public interest, and really, if you think about it, economic and even national security interest that goes into this. But even so, even if it goes through the planned phase 3, we're hopeful that there might be something end of year, allowing for vaccinations to be distributed probably early 2021. So, but I would not be surprised if this is expedited. If there are promising results that showcase not only efficacy, but safety, then I would not be surprised if this is moved up. The other thing I'd say is that the one important thing that they're looking at is if they can do this in one shot, but they're looking at certainly
Right.
2 shots, right? A booster. And why they're doing that now is to ensure that even if they get the right immune response, this remains effective, gets us through this challenging time in the winter when we are certainly seeing colds and flus and whatnot, and get us through that period so we can better assess and understand. With the flu vaccine, we know we have to give it annually, and that may not be surprising. So if we can even get to that sort of parity, I think that would be great. But if people need another booster a few months later, that might be an important thing, and that will of course have its own financial implications. But
Yeah.
this gives a sense of hope that the big awaited vaccine is around the corner.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of optimism, but obviously we have to, you have to temper your expectations at the same time here. But certainly a bit of good news and a big milestone today. Certainly in this country, it would seem like entering this widespread phase 3 trials for this vaccine. Appreciate you breaking down what exactly is going on here and what the next steps might be. Dr. Vanila Singh, clinical professor at Stanford School of Medicine, former chief medical officer with the Department of Health and Human Services. Always appreciate your time and your insight. And I'll let everyone watching know that we have more information put up at our website, and that's coronavirusnow.com. I'm Alex Savage from KTVU Fox 2 News here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'll see you next time.